Thank you for doctor. Are you doctor or professor? I'm never been sure what you prefer. To be called Professor Prakash Sinha or would you prefer to be called Professor Prakash Sinha or doctor? I said, thank you, Professor Prakash Sinha, and the organizer of MMAP, for inviting me, oblivion, into the gathering of scientists. As I was listening to Professor Sinha, I was wondering, what am I doing in this forum? I'm not a scientist. I don't even have an engineering degree. Me and science have never quite interacted in any way. I'm an ordinary, everyday ex-bureaucrat, not even a bureaucrat, ex-bureaucrat. So what do I bring to this conference, and why should I be here? The answer is my friendship with Professor Prakash Sinha, who has, for the last 2 years, been organizing and postponing, and then reorganizing and postponing this conference. And I thought that the least I could do was to be present on this momentous occasion. I must give you a small introduction to my own position in this place. The closest I got to science was in my career as a bureaucrat. I had a fair amount to do with the Atomic Energy Commission and, of course, the Atomic Energy Establishment in Mumbai. Much more when I was a National Security Advisor, in every way when I was a formal member of the Atomic Energy Board. And I can say that I played some role, not a very significant one, in sort of getting the India-US nuclear deal on stream. So it's during these days that I got to know about this very illustrious Indian scientist, Professor Prakash Sinha. One of the few who has adorned the heights in CERN, etc. And who was greatly revered in the scientific community, particularly in those dealing with nuclear and related matters. He is one of India's most distinguished scientists, and has been India's pride for many years. His scientific achievements and his association with CERN certainly embellish his reputation. In the many years, or rather many glorious chapters of India's scientific journey, I think Professor Prakash Sinha stands out like a guiding star in his heavens. And I think what I would like to do a great deal today is to mention that if we have scientists like Professor Prakash Sinha, then clearly Indian science is set to achieve much greater heights than what it has already done. This inauguration was supposed to be for all of 45 minutes. There were many more speakers present, and therefore we were all allotted a few minutes. I would like to say much more about Professor Prakash Sinha and what he has done and what this conference is all about. But the reason why I think I'm here basically is that when I was the governor of West Bengal, Professor Prakash Sinha came up and told me that he's planning to establish an institution called the Tagore Center for Natural Sciences and Philosophy. And he wanted me to associate with that. Then he went on to tell me something, or I would say explain to me in some detail, about the famous dialogue that took place between Professor Einstein and Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore many, many years or many, many decades ago, on the July 14, 1930, to be exact, in a Berlin suburb. I was aware that there was a dialogue. I knew nothing about what the dialogue purported to be about. Nor did I ever have the scientific curiosity to find out what was actually said. But Professor Vicarsana explained in great detail as to what really took place. And he tried to instill in me a concept that there's a great deal of synergy between science and human philosophy. He also went on to say that while the discussion between Tagore and Einstein wasn't quite all of the same wavelength, and while the two eminent professors decided to disagree on the dialectics, it led to an intellectual ferment and many a scientific venture. And he wanted the TCNSP to provide a kind of a springboard for the future, particularly of those who were not there when the Tagores and the Einsteins were present. So he said that we must give your support to this venture. I will do all the heavy lifting, but I would like you to act as a kind of a patron. It also happened that the year the institution came into being, 2013, if I remember right, was also the year of the centenary year of the Indian Science Congress, when I think Calcutta was awash with some of our finest and most brilliant scientists. Having been part of the inauguration, I was naturally charged up as to what was happening. And maybe through Professor Vicarsana and subsequently, even after I left Calcutta, I have seen what has been done to transform the institution into one meriting international attention and endorsement. I would like to congratulate and thank Professor Snella for this effort. If the intention, from what I understood from my discussions with Professor Snella at that time, if the intention behind starting TCNSP was to extrapolate on the contents of the debate between Einstein and Tagore, then I do hope that today's seminar, 75 years or more later, will enlighten the rest of India and the world on how far this objective has been achieved. On my part, since I was present at the beginning of the TCNSP, the unique quality of the TCNSP is that it encompasses both the artistic and the scientific landscape, thus investing it with a different hue from other institutions of scientific experimentation. I do not have the wherewithal to expand on all these subjects, and I have the benefit that there is not much time. But I cannot avoid mentioning very briefly, since Professor Sinha mentioned a few minutes ago that we are celebrating the 160th birth anniversary of our great poet, probably India's greatest, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. That the role played in regard to scientific inquiry of two of the greatest intellects of Bengal, if not India. I am referring here to Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, and alongside him, the amazingly versatile artist of international repute, Satyajit Ray. This conference is truly what I would say a tribute to and a testimony to the contributions made by these two individuals. And I'm sure that the conference that we inaugurated today will be a flag bearer of both scientific as well as intellectual inquiry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan, for such a comprehensive speech. I'm grateful. Next speaker is Professor Shubhi Sarkar, Oxford Professor.